Hi everyone, and welcome to the Millennial Revolt, an independent political talk show that seeks to bring a different narrative than the stale one we have going on right now in the mainstream media. So today we are going to be talking about Erdogan, Turkey, and the European Union. Because the war of words continues and relations are at an all-time low. So there's so much to talk about, there's so much to get into, so let's just jump right into it. Turkey has been trying to become a member of the European Union for about 54 years. Talks first started with Turkey in 1963 with the Ankara Agreement between Turkey and Europe, but they didn't actually apply for EU membership until 1987. But negotiations have repeatedly stalled over human rights concerns, disagreements over Cyprus, and other matters. Now, Turkey has a referendum coming up on the 16th of this month. Essentially, what would happen is it would expand the powers of the presidency, which means that it would make their parliament null and void, and their version of their Supreme Court basically inept because the presidency would have most of the power in the country. Now, how this whole row started was Turkish ministers wanted to campaign in European countries so they can get support from their expats living abroad. Many European governments said no. And as I've said in a previous video, I don't think any country should allow a foreign nation to campaign for a referendum in a foreign country, in their country. That makes no sense. That is illogical. But Turkey didn't accept this. Erdogan didn't accept this. And they began to call nations like the Netherlands and Germany, who was very sensitive about their World War II past, Nazis, and fascist. And since then, relations have deteriorated. During a rally that was held in Ankara, Erdogan told his supporters that his country would never be accepted into the EU because it was not Christian. I think that Turkey would never be accepted into the EU because it's not really in Europe. It never made any sense to begin with to ask them to join the European Union. Now, I'm just an American on the outside looking in, but majority of Turkey is not in Europe. Why would you allow them into the European Union and then give them visa-free travel? That makes no damn sense. But he said that all the leaders of the European countries went to the Vatican and listened to the Pope submissively. Do you now understand why they have not been taking Turkey into the EU for 54 years? The situation is quite loud and clear. It is a Crusader Alliance. April 16th will also be the day to evaluate this. Now, April 16th is the day of the referendum in Turkey. Now, what he is referring to is a meeting that took place on March 24th, where 27 EU heads of state met with Pope Francis in the Vatican just before a summit that marked 60 years since 6 countries were the beginning of what would become the European Union, which was Belgium, France, Italy, Luxembourg, West Germany, and the Netherlands, where in 1957 they signed the Treaty of Rome, setting up the European Economic Community, the EEC, which later became the European Union in 1991. A couple of things come to mind when I think about Erdogan continuing to make these bombastic claims. He could also be upset that many Western governments did not support him after the coup plot. Again, I say whether it was real or it was fake, he came out on top in that instance, and a lot of European governments didn't support him. He could still be upset about that, and there's also the fact that there's still millions of migrants in his country, and he has threatened on numerous occasions that he would rip up the migrant deal and send millions of these people into Europe. That is also a great concern for a lot of Western nations, Western European nations, because they didn't handle the migrant crisis correctly, and they're still having issues with it, getting these people assimilated, trying to deport some of them who are not actual refugees, who are economic migrants coming into the country. And you see a real parallel difference between Eastern Europe, who is taking measures to deal with this, versus Western Europe, who's kind of pushing it to the side. And it seems that where they're all in agreement is they don't want to deal with Turkey. And Turkey could be spurning Western Europe to get closer to the East, as in Russia, trying to rebuild relations with them. So there's a lot going on, and Turkey is still a NATO member. So there's a lot of issues that are going around right now, but I don't think making these kind of statements are helping. And it also doesn't help to make it seem as if there's a grand conspiracy or a war between Christianity and Islam. I don't like that parallel that he's trying to draw and trying to make it seem that there is a religious conflict that's going to bubble up soon, that Western Europe is Crusaders. I can understand if he made that parallel towards the East, where there is Christianity is more stronger in Eastern Europe, but Western Europe is very secular. Religion doesn't play a part in a lot of these governments. They try to push religion out as much as possible. Whether it's a good or a bad thing depends on who you ask, but it is what it is. This is the reality of the situation. Erdogan has also again accused Western countries of backing the PKK, which is the Kurdistan Workers' Party, which is a recognized terror organization in Ankara. Erdogan has repeatedly blasted many European governments who accuse him of trying to steal power in this referendum. Now, he says that the constitutional changes are necessary to protect the country's stability and would be similar to systems in the United States and France. But many of his critics in Western governments say that it puts too much power in one person's hands, and it will eliminate the government's checks and balances. As I've said before, Turkey does definitely have the upper hand in any negotiations between Ankara and the European Union, because if at any point he feels that his country is being stepped on, he can just rip up the migrant deal and send millions of people into Europe. And that's kind of Angela Merkel's fault, because she never really discussed any of this with anyone and just created a deal that everyone had to abide by. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see what Turkey does after the referendum, whether he moves closer to the east and away from the west. It will be interesting to see how he does try to fix relations with Europe, and if he does back out of negotiations for Turkey ascension into the European Union, which makes sense because the European Union is bound to collapse anyway. If Marine Le Pen was to win the French elections, which is a 50-50 chance she may win the first ballot and then get onto the second, but it's very iffy if she does actually win, she's definitely going to call for a French referendum to leave the European Union. So it's bound to collapse. So I definitely want to see what will be happening. I will be keeping a close eye on this and let you guys know everything that's going on. I'm the Millennial Revolt. Thank you guys so much for watching, and you have a wonderful day. Bye.